Once we started to get credibility into the point about lack of trust towards institutions and new faces, we kind of showed we do what we say we're going to do over and over again, that people feel safe and secure. This is the tricky part about services, is there's always a supply and demand issue. Supply, demand, getting jobs, delivering on them.
How can you help us, though, continue to help you? First, please subscribe to the channel. Like us. If you listen to the audio version, leave us a 5-star review wherever you can. If you see our posts, please share those posts, share the content, and link back to our law firm website, which helps us to continue our SEO marketing and grow our firm and help small business owners. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the show. I'm Mitch Beinhaker, your host, and this is The Accidental Entrepreneur. We're excited to talk about Brian and his story. We're going to learn what nearshoring is today. Find out what that is. If you are listening on your favorite directory, leave us a 5-star review whenever you can. And we're trying to keep building up the video channel on YouTube. So if you can watch us on YouTube, great. Subscribe, like the channel, share it, and keep us connecting with new people all the time. I always remind people that the information that we share in these episodes is for entertainment purposes only. It's not a guaranteed success or be construed of advice of any kind. And if you're going to make decisions from anything Brian and I discussed today, or anyone that I discuss things with, always check with local licensed professionals before making those decisions. So, Brian, thanks for coming on the show. I didn't even ask you, because you and I are running so much. Where are you located?
I live in Oahu, Hawaii.
Nice.
I moved here 9 years ago, but I did grow up in the Midwest and feel like I earned it from all the snow shoveling and ice scraping.
Nice. So we'll see if that's nearshoring or that's offshoring. But you are, so it's like 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday the 24th. So what is it, later there?
It's earlier. So
what time is it?
The U.S. Day starts in Guam and it ends in Hawaii.
Really? Because Guam's on the other side of the date line?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So how much earlier are you then from me?
So 6 hours. It's 9 a.m. for me right now.
All right, not too bad. Okay, good. Haven't gotten to Hawaii. Definitely should. Definitely want to. My wife's always bugging me about it. But now, is the cost of living as high as they say in Hawaii, or is it not so
Higher.
bad? It's higher. It's worse. And is it getting worse like it's getting here with gas prices and all that stuff, like everything going on in the world affecting the stuff you guys experience too?
So what's interesting about Hawaii is, you've got to import everything.
Yeah, right. That's what I figured drives up the price. Yeah.
So everything comes on a boat. It's expensive to begin with. And, where you've got like California, you've got the East Coast, there's a lot of jobs there, a lot of high paying jobs. So
yeah,
stuff is expensive. The jobs pay, right? So it all kind of compensates.
Okay.
In Hawaii, there's no Fortune 500 companies.
There's none.
There's really no Fortune 2000 for that matter. So if you want to make real money, you've got to be an entrepreneur. What I've done is I've been an entrepreneur where I'm getting paid from the mainland.
Yeah.
And using it to live in Hawaii.
I mean, is at least sushi less expensive? Can you catch your own fish? Or no, that doesn't count either. Like everything comes from other places.
You could catch your own fish. I haven't tried, but that's not a bad idea if times get tough.
All right, I figure the restaurants must be like catching fish. I don't know. They got a boat goes out and they get cheap fish. You're on an island, for God's sake, right?
Well, there is some really good poke out here. So
I'm sure.
Like fatty tuna.
I'm sure.
That never gets old. 9 years in, I can still go for a poke bowl every day.
Yeah, I could do that here. I mean, I go for that stuff too. We eat more sushi probably than anything else we eat. Okay, so why don't we go back then, because you said you haven't spent your whole life in Hawaii. Go back to when you're in the States, what your background is in business, and share that story.
Yeah, totally. Didn't grow up in an entrepreneurial household. Dad worked for the same company for 30 years. Extended family, same thing. So I didn't really know like the local plumber or the local deli owner. That wasn't really part of my world. I just kind of assumed I'd go to school, get a job, and do my thing, right?
Yeah, work for a company. They're going to take care of you when you get to retirement, which doesn't happen at all today.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
But I think I'm a Gen Xer, kind of like right at the end of the Gen X train. So
yeah, me too.
We all kind of feel like our careers are going to be forever.
Right.
So anyway, graduated, started working in the staffing world in Chicago, and then ended up in California.
Staffing, like
So
you were placing people for jobs?
people,
Got it.
yeah. And I
Okay.
was doing what's known as like IT contract staffing. So,
Okay.
and I happened to work um, for the Fortune 500. So my agency had contracts with like Verizon or Pfizer or
Right.
IBM. They're hiring, in just massive swaths of people. Like, we need 100 software engineers in Parsippany, New Jersey.
Right. And they're doing a project like for months, right? And then they staff them up and they staff them down. My cousin did that for a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah.
Right.
So, I happen to be doing national. So, you learn a lot about the country. You're calling different area codes, and you're placing a PeopleSoft developer in Walnut Creek, in 1 minute, and the next it's a network engineer for Verizon and Parsippany, and then it's
Yeah. It's right near me.
like R&D engineer for Pfizer in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And you're
Yeah.
kind of bouncing around, and
Right.
it's fun. You get a little variety of a lot of
Right.
stuff. You learn how to
But you didn't
negotiate.
travel there, did you?
Didn't travel, all from my real desk phone and
Right. Yeah. No Zoom in those days.
yeah, computer,
Yeah.
all that. So you kind of learn you're not going to make any money if you don't pick up the phone.
That's for especially in sales. Yeah. They don't call you.
That's right. And then ended up in California, where I kind of went to the other side. So I was in-house for a bunch of tech startups. And just like we see San Francisco depicted in the media, it's hoodies and MacBooks and exposed duck and
Yeah.
just a lot of dudes, and placing software engineers for companies that I was the head of recruiting for. Did that for a couple years. Just like being a VC investor, you pick some good ones, you pick some bad ones.
Right. Yeah. Some make it, some don't. But you were internal, in-house HR, basically.
That's right. That's right.
Hiring,
Yeah.
firing, things like that. Staffing.
Yeah. And then
Got it.
because these are startups, you end up with wild scopes. So I'm also in charge of IT support, or at least the
Right.
team that did it, and
You had to do
facility.
whatever you needed to do to keep the company going.
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. It was kind of my first view into entrepreneurship, but again, not the plumbers and electricians and deli owners. It's the
Right.
let's raise $20 million to build $1 billion company. And
Yeah.
we have a 1% chance to make it, but
If
we
we
all
do,
believe in
big
1%.
time. Right. Of course, those all the angel VC money, things like that. Right.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
So, so I was like a, fringe executive, we'll call it,
Okay.
in these days.
Yeah.
And, part of the exec team, but, I'm not powerful like the CFO.
Right. You weren't an officer, but you were sitting in on the meetings.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So, it was fun, learned a lot. And after, 5 or 6 years in San Francisco, finally had the confidence to try to be an entrepreneur myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to say I did it on both extremes, the hard mode and easy mode. And what I mean by that is I found an investor. So
Right.
you don't need an investor to be an entrepreneur.
Right. No.
In fact,
You bootstrap. Yeah.
I'd encourage most people not to.
Yeah.
But I raised about $2 million in my very first business.
Okay.
I had a thesis to build fintechs, which are financial technology companies, like the next generation of little startups trying to disrupt the banks. And they were all over San Francisco at the time. Think like what AI startups are today. That's what
Right.
fintech is.
It was like the PayPal times and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So like 10 years ago, PayPal's kind of like the OG,
Right.
of this world. And then there's like the lending clubs and companies like that.
Yeah. So what was this? What did this company do? What was the financial technology?
Yeah. So what we were doing, we weren't a fintech ourselves. We were think of like in the gold rush of the 1800s, people would sell the shovels. So I was
Okay.
kind of selling the shovel.
Good analogy.
So we were selling the ability to build your minimum viable product for fintechs. And the typical fintech that just got off the ground, usually like a finance guy or gal, was
Okay.
the founder, access to just immense amounts of capital, no worries there. Pretty good product vision. They knew what they wanted to build. Could care less how it was built. Didn't care about the tech stack or any of
Right.
that. So we would pitch them and say, hey, we'll build it for you.
Right.
So I had the $2 million, and I had this decision. I could have like a really tiny team in San Francisco,
Yeah.
or I could like build a company. And I decided to put our software engineers in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So the easy mode of it was I actually had some capital to make mistakes and make decisions.
Right.
And the hard mode was first time entrepreneur, doing it in a different country, and doing it in a country that this is not Singapore, which is like ranked first in the world in ease of doing business. This is Argentina, which is like 160th.
So now you were here, or you moved to Argentina?
I moved to Argentina. So my wife and I have a young family today, but at the time we were newly married, and this is some adventure. So we relocated to Buenos Aires.
Your wife went with you?
She went.
What did she do? Could she work in Buenos Aires?
She had fun. So she would do, she would take Spanish classes and go do her CrossFit and
got it.
Like CrossFit in Spanish.
Yeah. So you were paying the bills, though.
Yeah. It was fun, and I was like immersed in building a new company, finding office space, setting up the legal entity, making the first hires,
right,
payroll organized, trying to understand currency volatility and all this other stuff.
Now, Brian, you knew like HR and stuff in the United States. Like, what made you go to Argentina and say, "Oh, let's go to a country"? Did you speak Spanish at least?
It's funny.
And you're like, what made you do that?
My Spanish has been on a aggressive decline the longer I do business in Latin America.
Right.
Because their English is so high. Everybody I hire, like their English is just at another.
Yeah, because if they're dealing with people in the United States, they got to speak English. That wasn't really a barrier. But what made you? Say, let's move to Argentina. That's a great place to go and set this thing up.
Yeah, when I very, very first thought about it, it was like the world was my oyster. I could have done India.
Yeah,
I had done India before for grad school. We did like a segment there. It wasn't for me. If we can talk offline about that. But it just wasn't for me. And then I was like, maybe Taiwan or something, because there's, this Japanese influence, hard workers, lots of engineers. We think of all the chip companies out there. And then I was like re-diverted to time zone. I thought time zone would really matter. We were all the engineers would be aligned.
Yeah, meaning if you're in Taiwan, it's like the other side. It's like later there, right? It's like 12 hours later. Yeah, I deal with people from Philippines. So if I'm dealing with her 10 to 2 during the day, she's dealing with me 10 to 2 during the night. So Argentina's roughly in our time zone, right?
Yeah, and the secret weapon there is they eat dinner at like 11 o'clock at night. And it blew my mind. My wife and I would be finishing up our dinner at like 11, and thinking like we're the night owls.
Right.
And then we'd see a young family on a Tuesday night with like kids that are 3 years old, just stroll into the restaurant at 11 o'clock, like ready to start their meal.
Right.
So
but do they sleep late?
No. What's wild? This is, in my opinion, one of the most attractive people in the whole world. Like they just very, very attractive people, and they do everything that science tells you not to. They're eating a giant steak at 1 o'clock in the morning, right before they go to sleep. They're drinking a lot of wine. They smoke a lot of cigarettes. They don't really exercise.
Right.
They don't get any sleep, but they're amazing specimens of people.
That's crazy.
Maybe they play a lot of soccer. Obviously Messi's.
Maybe, yeah, a lot of exercise, right?
I guess so, but anyway, I picked it because time zone alignment. I had done a backpack trip there a couple of years prior, where solo, stayed in hostels, thought it was a pretty interesting place, kind of liked it, but was thinking like, should I do Mexico? Should I do Costa Rica? Wherever?
Right. You can go up and down anywhere in this time zone, right?
Yeah, so kind of, like eventually you gotta make a choice, and I did a trip right after investment, but before deciding on it,
Mm-hmm.
and just like 2 weeks of jam packed. Met with commercial realtors, met with a bunch of attorneys, met with potential engineers, met with recruiters, operations people. It's like, wow, there's some really high level people here, and they're like at the time $2,000 a month kind of thing. Like, wow, this is now. If you wanted the Philippines, I mean, it's like a race to the bottom in terms of price. Like, you could find people for $5 an hour, four
Right,
bucks an
right. It gets
hour,
crazy.
and then like Asia, I mean, like Bangladesh, there's always another country that will do it cheaper.
Right.
What I was really looking for was time zone alignment, and then this kind of ultimate arbitrage of a senior engineer for $2,000 a month, and
Right, like a
uh,
good price, not like making them poor where they don't want to work for you. You want to pay them decent money for that country,
yeah,
right?
but they were but
Yeah.
they were producing the work of a senior engineer in the States.
Yeah.
Like, their work quality was that good because they've got this creative thinking and mindset, and it's not just tell me what you want and I'll do it. Tell me what you want to build and I'll figure it out. And
Right.
that's a completely different type of person.
Sure.
So that's what I was really interested in. And by the way, eventually over time, like, I've paid people six-figure salaries in Latin America, but they're producing millions of dollars. So it's just like a level of arbitrage.
Yeah.
When you look at, say someone in Asia, and you're paying them, under $1,000 a month, but if they produce $10,000 a month of output, you're like, all right, I got a great deal. Just and same thing, like, you're an attorney, and we've got this like world of, if we can find arbitrage, and we pay our associate $250,000 a year, but they're producing millions and millions of dollars of billings.
Sure.
Like, we're all kind of looking for our arbitrage in some way. With Latin America, it's like this middle world. It's not super cheap. It's not, U.S. prices, but we're still getting this output and massive return on our dollars.
Yeah, the arbitrage is enough. Doesn't have to be dirt cheap. You want skilled people
That's right. That's
that
right.
you're in. Okay, so you moved down there, but you didn't know anybody. What do you put a shingle out and say, "Hey, would the line up if you're an engineer?" And then these people start coming in,
The first hire I made, and this is what I'd recommend others to do too.
right?
I hired a senior recruiter, and then I told the recruiter what I was looking for, and
A
the recruiter
local
was a
person,
local person
right?
who, high level of English, high level of Spanish. She happened to speak Portuguese too, which is what they speak in Brazil.
Right.
Kind of irrelevant for us, but it was
Right.
cool.
No, but Portuguese is very different than Spanish, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But like, worldly guy, and just immediately we had lots and lots of interesting people we could talk to, and helped us vet and make the first couple hires. And you notice that Latin America is a generally a place where they've had bad government and bad leaders for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
so they don't always like trust
Yeah.
new institutions. They don't always trust new faces.
Right.
So um, we kind of had some credibility with the local recruiter, and then as
Right,
we
because you're not Latin. You're not from Argentina. You're not from South America.
that's right.
You're
Although
some gringo
Argentina
from the United States.
although Argentina is interesting. We look at, like, say Mexico, where there's maybe some features like a little bit darker skin, than us, and maybe like a little shorter in stature. Argentina is extremely European, so like
Ah.
they're like mostly Caucasian looking, Italian influence. They look
They
like
didn't
Italian.
stand out as much, is what you're saying.
Yeah, like they're taller. But anyway, the once we started to get credibility, and to the point about the lack of trust towards institutions and new faces,
Right.
once we kind of showed, like, we do what we say we're going to do over and over again, then people feel safe and secure. Then they refer their friends. We continue to
It
recruit.
starts to grow from there.
And before you knew it, we had a team of 85 in Buenos Aires.
Wow. And where were you getting the jobs from? Did you have those lined up before you started looking for the people?
This is the tricky part about services is there's always a supply and demand issue,
Yeah.
right? You know, you
There's a
either have
timing issue of supply and demand, always.
always. It
Right.
doesn't matter, I guess, if you're an attorney, you got a real estate company, whatever. Like there's
Yeah.
always
No, there's never
you'll have
perfect timing with bringing it in and paying for it. Yeah.
there's supply demand, getting jobs, delivering on them.
Right.
So we tried our best to perfect it, but it's always a work in progress. We would sell and then deliver, sell and deliver, and just try to time it. But it's tricky.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because if somebody hires you to do a job, they want you to get started right away. Then you're like, well, we got to go out and get you the people first. They're like, well, I thought that's what you have, you know?
That's
Yeah, it
right.
makes it hard. Okay, so how long were you in Argentina?
Yeah, so I lived there roughly for about a year, and then visited there a lot more. So I've been there nine different times, and then ran that business for about 4 years. Just started to have our first kid. I was living in Oahu by then.
Yeah,
There was
what made
no,
you end up in Oahu with the business in Argentina? Why don't you just move as far away as you possibly can to make it as diff? And we didn't have as much remote work in those days. That
yeah,
was unique, right? So
yeah.
why? Yeah, why Oahu?
You know, it's funny you ask
You're a
because
surfer?
you know, in retrospect, when I think about it, like that was kind of a knucklehead thing to do. You
Well, I mean, it
know,
worked out, right? But
yeah,
what you just were
yeah,
attracted to Hawaii, you and your wife?
yeah. Well, because I could have moved to Miami or Houston, and it's like a 9-hour flight, and I'm
Right.
there all the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't. Yeah. I mean, Oahu is paradise. If you can afford it, there's really no other place I could imagine. Raising my family. It's awesome.
Can you
But
fly directly from Oahu or the Big Island or whatever, wherever the airport is, to Argentina? Or no?
not even close. No.
Not
You
even
you
close.
gotta,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Usually it's first to California, which is 5 hours, and then
Right.
California, Texas, which is another four,
Yeah. And then yeah.
and then Texas
So it's
to
like 3 flights to get there.
Argentina is another nine.
Yeah.
So it's a
It'd take
lot.
you a whole day to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna do all that travel, you don't want to go for 3 days. You want to go
Right. Of
for
course. You can't go for the weekend.
yeah, that's right. So it was a lot. So I knew that after 4 years, I sold my shares in that business, but I knew that I could never go back to being a W-2 employee. I absolutely wanted to be an entrepreneur.
Like you couldn't work for anybody at that point.
Never. I'm
Most
totally.
people, yeah, most people get to your level. They're like, I can't do this. Yeah, I want people to work for me. I don't want to work for them.
I'm totally unemployable at this stage,
Yeah,
Mitch.
right.
I think number two is, although I appreciated having an investment, um, I wanted to fully bet on myself going forward and ensure, the riches went to me, the risk went to me, the riches went to me. And then number three is, I still wanted to do business in Latin America, right?
Yeah.
So I've started two other businesses since.
Okay.
One was focused on leasing recruiters to VC funded tech companies.
So like
So
employee co-employment, that type of arrangement.
yeah, well, let me explain this a little bit,
Okay.
because if you've ever heard of the way that VC funded tech companies work, they're like not hiring, not hiring, not hiring. Or if you ever seen the movie Braveheart, there, like where there's like hold, and
Right.
then they
And then
put
boom, we needed 300 people.
and then they've got like their big sticks as the
Right. Because they got money.
right,
Yeah.
right. So these startups are like hold, and then we just closed $20 million on our term sheet. Now we need to hire 50 people. So they would, that puts a lot of pressure on your very small
Yeah.
internal recruiting team.
Right.
So we basically sold to these companies and said, hey, we've got turnkey sources and recruiters that understand this world. And I found an additional level of arbitrage of Latin America-based recruiters that could contact and source U.S. candidates for U.S. companies. So we had this extra profit layer because they were less expensive, but advanced English, and it was like project based. So when you've hired your roles, you don't need all these recruiters laying around anymore. So we would move on to the next project and the next one. And over time, we had about 60 recruiters working across 20
Wow.
different VC funded tech companies.
Yeah.
But it's a volatile world, you know. In 2021, I thought I was the greatest salesperson in the world.
Right.
In 2023, I thought I was the worst. You
Yeah.
know, just because money flows in and out of
Right.
those.
And this is all phone work, right? I mean, these guys are in Argentina. They're calling people they have on their lists and saying, hey, you know anybody who's got interested in this opportunity finding, just like normal headhunting goes on, right?
That's exactly right. Exactly
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah.
But this was a brick and mortar business though, right? In those days when you had 85 employees and you were in Argentina, there was an office, right?
There was an office in this recruiting business that I had after. Everybody was remote.
Yeah,
So we
because they
had,
didn't need to be, right.
yeah, we had very, very little
They had a
overhead. So
telephone and a list of people to call.
that's exactly right. And
And
then,
the recruiters were all commission based, like you didn't have to worry about a
no,
salary.
so here's the brilliance of this business is, it was all time and materials charged to the customer. So we would bill recruiting time. So for example, we would have a recruiter say in Mexico
Right,
that we billed our customer $50 an hour,
right,
and $50 an hour times 40 hours a week. So we're billing our customer $2,000 a week for that recruiter,
right.
and we've got 60 of these types of people, kind of spread across. And I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but we were invoicing our customer regardless of if they filled the jobs or not.
You're invoicing them for the work you're doing, right?
We're invoicing for the recruiter's time, which is different from traditional recruiting where you only send an invoice if you make a hire.
Right.
Just like real
Headhunting
estate.
is like that. That's what I call it, headhunting.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So you were getting paid for doing the work and putting candidates in front of them. If they chose not to hire them, then they go on to the next one. They still got to pay your bill. It's
That's
like
exactly
me. If I do legal work for somebody, it doesn't work out the way they want, they still got to pay my bill.
That's exactly correct. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
like a real
How did you
estate
get to?
agent.
Was it just that your industry that was the model? So it wasn't like you wanted to do it differently and you bucked the system. They just didn't do it that way.
The way I think the reason customers really like that model is if you're successful, the bills could be massive, right? You're doing 200K software engineering jobs,
Right.
25% fee, that's 50K a pop. So,
Yeah. If it's the other model, right.
yeah. So if you hire 4 people for that, that's $200,000 in recruiting fees, just like that.
Yeah.
And it's only four placements. But if you
And it
pay,
doesn't come out of the guy's salary. They're still going to pay the guy. So it's extra money that they're paying, right?
that's right. But if you have a recruiting team that you hire for, 2 recruiters for 3 months and they make the same 4 hires, maybe you spent $30,000 in 3
Yeah,
months.
it's a lot cheaper.
Yeah,
Right. So as long as you know your recruiting team's good and they're giving you quality people, you're able to hire them. It's a much cheaper way to do it.
that's exactly right. Yeah.
Right. And
So
you're happy because you don't have the risk and the cash flow issues, right? You got money coming in all the time.
that's exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
No, elephant
So
hunting you can starve being an elephant hunter.
yeah, so it works when it works, and when the market goes south, it gets a little tighter. And I pivoted. The pandemic was kind of a wake up call. This is even before the next big boom in this business.
Right.
But the pandemic, a lot of my projects were paused.
Yeah.
Like nobody was hiring during the pandemic.
Right.
So that scared me. I've got a family to feed, and so during the pandemic, I started Plug in parallel. Plug is my nearshore staffing company.
Right.
So today we've got about 100 software engineers that we bill out from all over Latin America on long-term projects.
Okay.
And kind of incubated that during the pandemic, and then put it to the side for a minute while the recruiting world was going crazy in 2021, 2022. And then as things started to get crushed a little bit in 2023, no sweat, I just pivoted my time towards Plug. And the nearshore world has had wind in its sails for the last 3 or 4 years. There's a lot more interest in talent that's on our time zone. I think people, not
And you were
everybody,
in Hawaii this whole time, right?
I was in Hawaii the whole time.
And the company's still in Argentina?
The very first company, a plug, is actually we're a U.S. based entity with Latin American infrastructure, so recruiters, operations
Got it.
people south of the border.
Can you explain to me, since you brought it up, what is we know what offshoring is, right? That's like
Yeah,
moving operations, I guess, offshore.
sure.
What is nearshoring? Isn't it a term that you developed, or is it an industry term?
I wish I could have coined it, like Pat Riley coining three-peat, even though the
Right.
Bulls we're one three-peating. But
Right.
yeah, I wish I coined nearshore. So I'm sure most of your audience has heard of offshoring.
Maybe you're getting your calendaring from one software and you're invoicing from another. Evenoo is a platform that we use as one of our sponsors to run our entire business. And there's other features like auto payments and integrations with QuickBooks. Visit evenoo.com, EVONUE.com to learn more. There's also a link in the show notes. And be sure to tell them that the Accidental Entrepreneur referred you. This podcast is brought to you by our affiliate sponsor, iEmployee. iEmployee is a virtual assistant service that hires almost anyone for any role in your company right out of the Philippines. Most roles range from $7 to $9 an hour for highly skilled and experienced VAs. And whether you need an executive assistant, social media manager, video editor, customer service, sales, you name it, they have it. We use iEmployee for our VA services, from editing and promoting the podcast to all the PR and promotion of our law firm. iEmployee acts as a virtual field supervisor on the back end with live video monitoring and reports on a daily basis with screenshots of your VA's workday, and along with complete HR and payroll duties. No more paying for overpriced and underqualified workers. There's a link in the show notes to get a 1-week free trial, and I encourage you to take advantage of it.
The big three countries for offshoring: India, China, Philippines. China's factory, India's IT, Philippines are back office VAs. The issue, big ocean, so somebody's sleeping when the other person's awake, or you're just kind of not, somebody's not sleeping, right? Or they're, so it just leads to like instability, unsustainable work, attrition, whatever. So with nearshoring, it's a little bit more expensive than Asia. You're never going to beat Asia on price. A little bit more expensive, but the time zone is fully aligned. So it's 3:00 in the afternoon, and if you had your team in the Philippines,
it'd be 3 a.m.
So you just kind of send an email,
Right.
hope that it makes sense. And when you wake up the next day at 8 a.m. and they've been working, you hope that they understood what you meant and your project is moving forward. I talk to a lot of people, and it's sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Right.
When it's Latin America and you've got your person, and it's 3:00 your time, it's 3:00 their time, and you pick up the phone and you say, "Hey, this is what I want. Hey, I actually have 2 questions," and you get it all clarified and sorted out, and then they all go back to work, and you both finish at the same time. You look at what they did, and then you do your stand up the next day together, and it's just like fully aligned in every way.
Yeah, and I would guess with higher tech, more difficult positions, that's harder to do. I mean, my support person's in the Philippines. She does the podcast editing and blogging and things like that. I don't really need to talk to her much. Send her an email, she'll answer me. It doesn't, the disconnects, but if it's high tech, complicated, it can become difficult. You can't wait 24 hours to hear back from the person.
Yeah, if you have a role where you just want some collaboration, I think you want to be in the same time zone.
Is that what nearshoring means? They're in the same time zone?
That's right, and it's relative. Every example I gave was very U.S. centric, but it's also has to do with like usually a developed country being supported by a developing country. So, for example, Australia, developed country, Philippines, developing country, nearshore, right?
Right, because same time zone.
Pretty much the same time zone.
Yeah.
Whereas for us, Philippines is obviously offshore.
Yeah, it's funny. I imagine when you said nearshoring, it's some like barge somewhere, and we got all these cubicles on the barge, and it's offshore. But they're near the shore. They would be working, and I was thinking, how is that cheaper? Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I like
because you
that.
hear all
Yeah,
this stuff offshore going on the ocean and stuff. So it's
yeah,
interesting, but it makes sense. I mean, if you have, it's okay to offshore things to another jurisdiction if you have remote work and you can do it remotely for whatever job you have. But the time zone does become challenging. I know that's why some of these people, like I can deal with my person in the Philippines because she works during the night. She
yeah.
doesn't work she works 10 to 2 for me 5 days a week. She doesn't work 10 to 2 during her daytime. She has to work during the nighttime
Okay.
because it's got to be during my work hours.
Right, right. Yeah,
But I also
yeah,
know that if it's let's say it's 10 to 2. So if it's 2:30, I'm not getting her because it's 2:30 a.m. She's asleep,
yeah, yeah,
and I'll
yeah.
have to get it the next cycle.
Yeah, and like for some people, I mean, just like in the States, not everybody's cut out for third shift late night work, right?
Yeah.
Like in the factory age, there's usually a little premium, or the taxi driver that does the 3 a.m. airport runs.
Yeah.
Not everybody's cut out for that.
No, and that's not very sustainable either because in the
Yeah,
long run, you just burn it. You just can't keep up. If you're young, you're busting
yeah,
your ass, that's fine, but then you're not going to do that forever.
yeah. And then you gotta, blackout curtains at 11 a.m. when everybody else is awake, and it's
Right.
not for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And that's
You can
where,
wear those. I wear those eye masks, that, so, because I don't like, we have blackout shades and light still gets in the room, and I want to sleep. My wife doesn't bother her. I've gotten to the point where it keeps me up. So you have an interesting model, though, because you're basically operating a business. You want it to be in Hawaii, so you're in Hawaii, just so you can't save money ever. So that's a good place to be. And you really have the business running in Argentina. You have a guy on the ground there, boots on the ground. Oh no, it's not in Argentina. You have them all over
yeah,
the place now.
yeah. Well, I do have a full-time president who's based in Atlanta.
Ah, okay.
So he's kind of running it, but
But there's nobody there. It's just him, right?
yeah, that's right. He works from home, and then we have internal team members kind of scattered, Mexico, Nicaragua, kind of all over Latin America.
Okay.
And but it's taken me like years to figure this out.
Yeah.
But I remember the magic for me was probably 2019 when I had my second business, and I remember seeing this email thread. I wake up in Hawaii, and I'm still like a relative early bird. I've got young kids, so if I'm like, up around 5:30, but by the way, like 5:30 is still like lunchtime essentially on the East Coast, so
Right,
like,
but 5:30 a.m. in Hawaii must be beautiful. I mean, it's not, you're in paradise to begin with. I don't like
yeah,
getting up at 5:30 in the morning in New Jersey, but in Oahu, I probably would.
yeah. So I'm trying not to complain too much, but if I wake up at 5:30, like the day is halfway over for the East
Yeah, that's
Coast.
the problem, right?
So that means that like problems come up, just like every business, right? Issues come up, customers are frustrated, things happen, right? It's just business. Now, what I was always afraid of is because I'm all the way out here in Hawaii,
Yeah.
that I was like, can I ever sleep? Because,
Right, you wake
like,
up at 5:30. It's the middle of their day. There's been problems already. They're looking for you, screaming, "Brian, we got to fix this," and you're sleeping.
that's right, that's right.
Yeah,
So the magic for me was, and why, another reason I love Latin America. Latin America gets a bad rap, but for the wrong reasons. They get a bad rap for, like, we see these shows, Narcos,
yeah,
and we hear about Maduro,
cartels. Yeah,
yeah, cartels, and we hear about Maduro captured with a helicopter,
yeah, it's nuts.
and like Vladimir
Chaos, no
Putin,
governments. Right.
yeah, and dictatorships and despotism and all this other stuff. These are the leaders, not the people, right? But that means the people have kind of lived in a unpredictable, chaotic life.
Yeah.
So they're very good at turning chaos into calm. They're very good at being flexible, adaptable, creative, and finding workarounds to crazy government controls and things like that. So they're very entrepreneurial, like innate,
Yeah.
and they're very good at problem solving.
Okay.
So the magic for me was this. I woke up one day and I'm like, oh, I see the subject line, the email. I just know like there's an issue.
Right.
The person's not happy. But then I start like catching up on the thread, and my person in Latin America was up at the same
They
time,
dealt with it.
and they understood the problem. And instead of just documenting the problem, like over the series of emails, they're like summarizing it, making proposals, and then they fixed it all in the time I was sleeping.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. And, all respect to Asia, I did a MBA in Singapore, and it's like very hierarchical,
Yeah.
society. And generally Asia, not all Asia, but there's like a hierarchical. Not everyone wants to raise their hand. They don't want to disagree. They don't want to. There's a saying in
Very
Japan
respectful.
about
I
there's
hear
a saying
Singapore's an amazing place.
amazing.
Yeah.
But there's a saying in Japan of the nail that sticks out gets hammered. So people don't want to
Right. That's why they have similar color cars. They keep their heads down. They stay in line. I've been told that you go there and it's like the subway empties out and they all wait in line to go up the elevator. Nobody like the escalator.
That's
Nobody
right.
fights. They're all very respectful. And
That's
yeah, that's
exactly
fun.
right.
We should
And
have
it's
a
like
saying like that.
and it's like harmony over truth, right?
Yeah.
And like no one wants to say the boss is doing something
Right.
dumb. Latin America is a lot more aligned with the U.S., where like they say when something doesn't make sense, they push back when they disagree, they make recommendations, and that's not for every culture. Like meaning your company, you might want people to disagree with you and just execute the task.
Well,
Like,
you do. That's for
yeah,
sure.
no, I don't want to. I don't want to hear it. Just do it. But I think most entrepreneurs, small business owners, want a team member that's scrappy, flexible, creative, can solve problems, thinks outside the box. So aside from all the time zone benefits and cost benefits, it's that problem solving skill set that I love, because I can give autonomy and empowerment, and I can,
Gives you
like,
peace of mind.
and I can do this from Hawaii and like read what happens
Right.
instead of being in the center of everything that happens.
Brian, do you know how many times I get some issue from a client and I'm busy? I got a lot of stuff going on. I don't treat things as fire drills. I mean, there are fire drills that clients need, but I'm not in that kind of law for the most part. So I would put it aside and get to it later, and maybe in a day or two, and I would think about it and 9 times out of 10 they resolve itself. Like,
Yeah.
it's not something that needed my input or a little bit of input. Hey, let me look into that. And then when you check into it, not a big deal. My dad used to have this saying. So he passed away in late in 2022. And he was an entrepreneur. He was in insurance sales. He had his own company. And he would go away to the mountains with my mom every week in that house upstate New York. He would come back Mondays because there was traffic, right? So he would come back Monday morning because he owned the company. Like, he could come in. And he would come in probably like somewhere between 12 and 2 o'clock on Mondays. And I said, well, why? I know you come back in the morning, but why do you go in so late? He says, because years ago I realized that whatever's going to happen over the weekend. My staff will figure a way, because I'm not there, how to solve most of the problems that occurred over the weekend. And he would get in by 2 o'clock and 90% of the things were taken care of. And it just, it gave him more freedom of thought. And I think most of the time when you have good people working for you, and if they're the right mindset, they figure it out when you're not available. If you're available, they lean on you too much. But since they know you're not available and you're in Hawaii, and they're like, well, Brian's asleep, so we got to take care of this. They figure it out.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You don't have to be the guy to solve every problem. You don't want to be the guy to solve every problem. It's all your pressure. What do you need that for? I think a lot of entrepreneurs would take it to heart that if they hire good people, not just the cheapest people or whatever, and invested in their people, and then gave them the what's the word, the power, the autonomy, right? Yeah, that's a good word, to make decisions and to deal with things, and maybe screw up a little bit and they'll learn more, whatever. The whole organization benefits. Certainly the entrepreneur has more room to build the business and do the hierarchical things to grow the company, So
100%. Yeah. Yeah, there was a quote I read years ago of people's IQs double with autonomy. Meaning
I
like,
understand that. Yeah, I agree.
yeah, if you don't
Definitely.
give them autonomy, they're like afraid to think,
Yeah.
and
They want to
because
run
they're
everything by you. They're not sure. Brian, what do you think of this? What do you? And then finally, you get to the point where they start doing things. But if you just kind of like disappear for a couple of days and see what happens,
yeah,
they'll
yeah,
surprise. Most people will surprise you. And if they don't, maybe you want to know that sooner than later anyway,
yeah, that's right.
right? You want to know that if the forest fire comes to town, and they're not capable of handling it, you don't want to find that out when the whole team gets wiped out because of something they do. Know it when
Totally.
make the little mistakes up front. But yeah, that's interesting. And it's really happened because of the way you wanted to live your life, right? I mean, because you wanted to be in Hawaii and because these people are all over the place, it just kind of showed its face that way, right?
Yeah, I think for me, I've always, I just kind of hated being in offices. Honestly, um, you know, not everybody knows this, so this might be like a podcast bombshell for me. Is I actually got fired from Google um, because I lived in San Francisco and the campus was in Mountain View.
Which is how far?
So Mountain View is about an hour and a half bus ride,
Oh, that's
but
far.
Google has their own company buses, so there's like air
Okay.
conditioning, Wi-Fi, and everything. But even then, I would just kind of get antsy, and you know, I just kind of like I was like the one guy that just didn't even want to go to the Google campus with video games and weight rooms and all the candy you can eat. I just didn't want it. I worked for another startup in San Francisco where I just everybody showed up at like 9 a.m. but I just started showing up at 11:30 a.m. because
What?
and but like I made sure like I was always an elite performer. I just didn't want to work on their schedule, and I just kind of
And they didn't
realized
have flex hours like they would say. I mean, if you came in at 11, did you stay 2 hours longer?
I usually like left when my work was done,
Right. Okay.
like maybe 5, maybe 9,
Okay.
uh, but I really tried to push towards like outcome based instead of uh, FaceTime based,
Right.
you know,
And a lot of
and I
times
think
those people get fired because they're being paid a salary and they want, the supervisor wants you there. And
but I
they,
think I realized like if you ask, nobody's going to say yes. But if you
right,
just do it and your work
is
is high,
good. And then they're like, well, we're not going to get rid of Brian because his production is huge. Yeah, but he comes in at 11:30. Okay, but he gets more done than anybody else on the team.
yeah. So I think I've always tried to be like, how do I make my life the center and then everything else supports it instead of the other way around.
Yeah. That's a difficult thing though. If you're part of a team and you're coming in late, it creates animosity amongst employees. I know some friends that have companies like that, and they hire some people, and the guy may have an hour and a half commute or whatever, and he's coming in late every day.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's performing at your level. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
So what's the future for your business venture or ventures? You're obviously staying in Hawaii. Who'd leave? So
Yeah.
yeah,
You know what? Yeah. One thing I've done kind of as a tangent, because I just love being an entrepreneur, Mitch. I just get a kick out of
you got
it.
other things starting up and stuff.
Different problem sets. So I've gotten into the world of boring businesses.
Okay.
I think like cleaning, electrical, plumbing, all that stuff. So far, the last 2 years, I've picked up a new company every year.
So you've been
So
buying companies, like small companies, from
very
Hawaii that operate in the United States?
well, just for reference, Hawaii is part of the United States,
No, I mean
but
onshore versus you can't
sure,
swim
yeah,
to the United States. So
yeah,
you got to take
yeah,
a very long plane ride. So that's what I mean. Okay.
yeah, but Hawaii companies in Hawaii. So I bought a cleaning company in Hawaii and a
Okay.
locksmith company in Hawaii,
Oh,
and my
okay.
plan is to pick up. And these are like little companies, but I'm having fun.
And you're not doing the work, right? You have people working for you.
I'm not cleaning houses. I don't know how to change a
Right.
lock, but like, I see opportunities, and it just all becomes about do you got the right operator, the right message, the right
great
positioning,
cash flow and
the
build
right
up the business.
pricing.
Sure. And if you're better at it, you do it a couple of times, you start getting, and those are, you say they're boring businesses, but they're services that people always need.
That's
Like the
right.
way we do
Right.
plumbing, the way we do electrical may change, but everybody's going to always need it.
That's
And,
exactly
and
right.
with
Yeah.
technology, you may be able to own a business like that with less people than you used to, you know? So, but
Yeah.
right now you're looking at everything on your shores, not
That's
across.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Plug is still very much going strong. It's never been a hotter time for Latin America. Um, but I just love business. I love being an entrepreneur.
Cool.
They look to me to keep stacking these things, and in 5 years, I might have 7 boring businesses, and Plug is still thriving.
Right. And then you're just kind of overseeing what's going on and checking out on things and having managers. And I mean, that's the real mark of an entrepreneur, somebody who learns how to build a business. Doesn't matter what they're doing. The principles are basically the same, and you learn your metrics and you learn what, how can you improve this business? Like you're going to buy it from somebody who's older, let's say they're retiring. How can you make it into bigger business? It's interesting. So, all right, well, we'll see if you end up buying things here too, over here. By the way, for anybody listening, I don't think for a minute that anybody in Hawaii is not an American citizen, or in Puerto Rico, or in Guam, or in American Samoa, right? So, yeah, like you can emigrate from Puerto Rico apparently and still be an American citizen. Ridiculous. So anyway, yeah, got to get out there. So now I have a friend in Hawaii, in
Yeah.
Oahu, and I can go and.
Anytime you're out here, Mitch, poke bowl and beer is on me.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. All right. So, for those of you listening, thanks for joining us for another show. As I always say, go to the YouTube channel, support us, like us, share us, leave us reviews. Brian, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to connect with you? Is it LinkedIn? Is it you have a
Yeah.
website?
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Plug.tech, plug.tech, and there's a
Okay.
contact form. We do conversations all the time about people that are kind of curious about Latin America and nearshoring. Uh, Anytime, we love it. We're ambassadors, and we'll talk you through it.
Yeah, and if people are watching on video, I think over your head says the Nearshore Cafe podcast. You have a show that you
Yeah.
do too.
Yeah, we're closing in on 90 episodes, and it's
Nice.
just stories and people that are doing business. So you can hear from real life people just like you that wanted to build a team in Lima, Peru, or Santiago, Chile, and what did they
Nice.
learn, and what was
And it's
hard about it.
available on all the directories and YouTube and whatever.
Exactly, Spotify, Apple, all this stuff.
Nice, nice. Yeah, well, I think if you make it past like 10 episodes, you're in like 1% of the podcast or something. So 90 is a good. You're in a very small company. We're over 400, and
Yeah, I was gonna
it
say
took us a long time to
trying,
get there.
yeah, I'm trying to follow in the footsteps of the OG podcasters like you.
Yeah, exactly. That's funny to say that, but it took 7 years, so you just got to stick with it. So,
That's awesome.
all right, Brian, I can't thank you enough for joining me. Yeah, from like the other side of the world almost. I did Singapore once. That was Australia. That's really the other side of the world. So,
Yeah, no,
but
for
enjoy
sure.
the rest of your day. I don't know. What do you do there? You eat a pineapple, you have a Mai Tai, or you eat something, right?
Yeah, I'll probably get the stand-up paddleboard out here in a minute.
Nice.
Have a day. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Cool.
I can't
Yeah,
thank
thanks
you
for
enough.
the opportunity. Thank
All
you.
right. Great.
In addition to being a podcast host, I'm also a small business attorney, mostly providing legal services in New York and New Jersey. With over 3 decades of experience, we can handle most transactional issues. So if you're watching the show and you encounter some sort of legal issue, reach out to us and visit our website, beinhakerlaw.com. Thanks for tuning into the show and for continuing to support us.